when I was in my 20s and into my 30s, I pretty much lived hand to mouth. Now, I had enough work on to make rent, and occasionally I would have enough money to treat myself. It wasn't anything big, maybe it was dinner out one night, but more often than not, I would treat myself to, say, a gourmet food item at the grocery store. That was a big deal for me. One of my favorite splurges was these things called Knutson's juice spritzers. They came in a can, and they were super expensive for a person on a tight budget. So I used to savor every sip. The stuff was sacred. It was like holy water. My favorite flavor was black cherry. Well, I got tired of being poor, so I started doing a lot of meditation on creating abundance in my life. At the time, I was a freelance writer and editor, and I really needed to step up my game. I was mostly word of mouth, but what I needed was some serious business cards and flyers. Now, this was the early days of the internet, so these things were still printed, but that cost money, which I didn't have, so I needed to get a business loan. I calculated that I needed around $1,200. I didn't think it was a whole lot. So I started with my credit union, and they turned me down. Well, then I went to some other banks in town asking for $1,200 for a business loan, and they all turned me down. So then I found out about this place called the Women's Business Incubator. I went and met with a case agent. I filled out an application. This woman said, "Sarah, you are just the type of person that the Women's Business Incubator was set up to help." And I'm thinking, oh boy, here comes this loan. The loan board denied me. So I'm standing in the office getting this news from this case agent, and she was pretty embarrassed and felt really bad for me. And she said, "Look, don't give up. Have you tried Megabank?" And I said, and Megabank was the biggest, most prestigious bank in the city where I lived, and I said, "No. Everybody else turned me down, including my own credit union, and now you guys, the Women's Business Incubator, who was set up to help people like me, has turned me down. What makes you think that Megabank is going to give me a loan?" And she said, "Well, you never know." And she scribbled the name of this loan officer on a piece of paper, and she handed it to me, and I thought, well, what do I got to lose? So I bought a new dress. I hardly ever wore dresses. I borrowed makeup from a friend of mine. I never wore makeup. And I even put on a pair of pantyhose in July. Yeah, you ladies know what I'm talking about. So the day of the appointment is here with this banker, and I'm going to walk the mile to the bank. So I'm walking down the street, and it's hot. And I'm starting to get a little sweaty, and then I'm starting to get a little self-conscious, and I'm thinking, is my dress too short? Is it too tight? Do I look a little too trampy? Do I look a little too desperate? Oh, God, now I'm pitted out. And I'm standing at the street corner at this intersection waiting for the light to change so I can cross. There's this row of shops behind me, and I see this guy coming out of one of the shops, and he's carrying a drinks can. And he unlocks his bike, and he gets on his bike, and he pops the top on the can, and he takes a sip, and he grimaces, and he shouts, "Yuck!" And he chucks this can to the curb. And then he's on his bike, and he just takes off. Well, this bothered me for two reasons. First of all, the guy just littered. And secondly, as I was watching this can in the road, it was slowly rolling toward me, and I could see it was a Knutson's fruit juice spritzer. And this guy just wasted it. So I'm looking at this can, and it's rolling, ker-chug, 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 really slowly, and it comes to a stop right in front of me. And the opening was facing me, and the liquid wasn't spilling out, and I was thinking, that's kind of weird. And then I thought, well, he only had his lips on it for a few seconds, right? And this is when I noticed it was black cherry, my favorite flavor. It's hot, I'm thirsty, I'm nervous. So I go to reach for the can, And I look up and there's this pickup truck, and it's coming pretty fast toward me. So I backed off, and I was thinking, what would happen if this pickup truck ran over this can of liquid that was lying on the road right in front of me? Well, a few seconds later, I found out. Now, the ensuing event could not have been orchestrated more beautifully, because this was something you would only see in the movies. I mean, really, what were the chances that all these little pieces of the puzzle fit together so perfectly if they had not been scripted? So picture this. Woman, rejected multiple times for itty-bitty bank loan, stands on the corner in her brand new dress. Man on bicycle tosses can full of liquid in the street. Cut to shot of can rolling slowly toward woman. Cut to shot of can stopping right in front of woman. Cut to shot of pickup truck barreling down road. Cut to shot of tire running over can. Cut to shot of the contents of the can flying through the air, sparkling in the summer sun. Cut to shot of liquid landing all over woman, her hair, her face, her brand new dress. I was 10 minutes away from probably what was the most important meeting of my life at that time, and I had just been baptized in sticky, holy water. So the light changes, and I'm trying to brush this stuff off me, and I'm crossing the road, and I get to the bank, and there's this drinking fountain in the lobby, and I'm washing my hands and my arms off, and I'm drying my hands on my dress. I would have stuck my face in the fountain, but there was this person giving me the stink eye. So I go and have a meeting with the banker, and we're sitting there talking about my business goals and my loan needs and my credit history. And the whole time I'm watching this guy like doing this. And he's looking up at the top of my head, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, a half an hour later, I had completed the loan application. We stand up. Mr. Banker shakes my hand. He says, congratulations, the money will be in your account in a few days. I was ecstatic. Mr. Banker had agreed to loan me $10,000. I was stunned. Well, I get home, and the first thing on my mind is, I gotta take a shower. So I stop and look at myself in the mirror, and I see this bedraggled woman, hair sticking up all over her head where the juice had dried. Little shiny patches on my faces where this sticky juice had dried. My dress was a little bit crumpled. I looked like a 2-year-old who hadn't quite mastered the art of drinking from a cup. Or maybe I just looked like a really pathetic 30-something who was so poor she couldn't afford to launder her clothes or take a shower or even comb her hair before a really important meeting. Maybe Mr. Banker felt sorry for me. I don't know. Or maybe all that meditating I did on my financial situation literally showered me in abundance and the sweetness of life. Thank you.